All right. One of the last questions that I got about real estate commission, which is kind of our hot topic of the day, comes in off of my core page, and it is: do realtors ever cover their clients' closing costs? How much are they willing to pay, if at all? This is kind of a question that I think probably would have been more relevant maybe over a year ago, when the standard practice was the seller and listing agent negotiated a commission, was communicated on an employment agreement. And then the agreement was that the listing agent would take a portion of that and share it or offer it to the buyer's agent as what's called a co-broke commission. And in that instance, then you have the opportunity for a buyer and buyer's agent who potentially have negotiated their commission together, and then they happen upon this property, and the co-broke commission that is being offered by the listing agent may be more than the buyer and buyer's agent have negotiated together. So that excess amount potentially could be used as a concession from the agent to the buyer to make up the difference of what was agreed to between the client and their representative, and then what was offered by the seller and or the listing agent. However, because of our the litigation that we've seen nationwide of a couple of monumental court cases, as of August of 2024, that is really no longer the practice, because listing agents are no longer to publish any of the offered commission or co-brokes in the local MLSs. And so with that practice kind of taken out of the MLS, you are less inclined to find those offerings that are in excess of what's already been negotiated by the buyer and the buyer's agent. Now it's more of a process, or in practicality, the buyer's agent and buyer negotiate a commission, and then if they are asking the seller or the listing agent to take on that expense, it's done through contract negotiations as a concession, like any other concession. Will you pay my closing costs? Will you buy my rate down? Will you provide a home warranty? Any of those are concessions that the buyer can ask the seller for. The seller doesn't have to agree. They can say yes, no, maybe, or yes, but a certain amount or whatever. That's part of the contract negotiations. But it is now the more common practice at this point that the buyer would take that buyer's agent negotiated commission and wrap it into a concession request that's made part of those contract negotiations with the seller and the listing agent. So I hope I've answered your questions about commission. I know it can be a topic that realtors don't like to talk about. And I know it's a hot topic now because of all of the national court cases. So I'm happy to discuss it. I have no trouble talking about commission. I have no trouble explaining how it works and how it relates to me, because I think everybody can agree nobody wants to work for free. So the next time you are thinking about hiring a realtor, it's fair to ask them what they're going to provide you and get a better idea of the value that they bring you as your representative. But then also know that they don't work for free. And this is the only way that they are paid most of the time, unless they're salaried or a, for fee broker or any of those rare occurrences. The majority of realtors are paid on commission, and that's how they live. And they take on expenses like showing properties to people who never end up completing a purchase, doing research for buyers who never end up making a purchase or swap to, a different strategy. Realtors do a lot of things that they don't get paid for a variety of reasons. And so the way they do get paid is through the successful closing of a property where that negotiated commission is then released to them as their payment. So keep those questions coming. I love it.